What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Wall. My name is Bogz. Today, I'm going to be reviewing episode 4 of Ahsoka. We're getting straight to it, straight spoiler talk. Finally, a solid episode of Ahsoka from start to finish. Some of the best Star Wars I've seen since George Lucas, and I don't take that lightly. The writing, the vision, the storytelling, moving the story forward. We've got character development, we've got fantastic action, awesome CG, and great cliffhanger at the end. And this is the stuff we should be demanding. This level of storytelling. This really felt, I mean this in a compliment, in a positive way, has really felt like Star Wars Rebels episode, like an in-depth, thorough lore and world building. I was particularly impressed with the lightsaber fights. So definitely some of the best we've had since the prequels. Obviously, we haven't had that many in live action. Definitely better than anything in the sequel trilogy. I was very impressed. So let's get to the episode breakdown. As Ahsoka and Sabine are having a discussion, Huyang is fixing the ship, and Ahsoka realizes if you can't get the map, then no one should. At first, I didn't exactly catch on what that meant personally. I actually thought that she's discussing with Sabine that, listen, it's going to come down to it. Are we going to have to take out these Dark Jedi Force users? But what they actually meant was, let's destroy the map. So, if we can't get to Ezra, then no one should, because obviously if they get to Thrawn, they've referred to this unlimited power. And Ahsoka's always been about and is about the greater good. A very centered character. She's had fantastic training, and she's, obviously a noble hero and things like that. So she's always about the greater good, whatever the sacrifice. And she asks Sabine clearly and definitively, can I rely on you? Basically, if it comes down to it. We see assassin droids surround the ship that obviously Balin has set to capture the Jedi, and we see Huyang take on the assassin. I did like the way, he's got hands, basically. And I do kind of wish he had a lightsaber. He's got 4 arms. We've seen him in the training, a bit reminiscent of General Grievous. I would like to see him with a lightsaber. He could have used maybe Ezra's lightsaber, because Sabine's obviously got her own Mandalorian arsenal and stuff. But we see that, obviously, later on in the episode, that Sabine does need Ezra's lightsaber. But just in that moment, I would have liked to personally have seen Young with a lightsaber, because he's trained Jedi for over 1,000 generations. So I want to see how proficient he is in the arts. And then we see Ahsoka and Sabine join in, and they eventually defeat these droids. Again, that was pleasantly surprising. Really good action. In the kind of first couple episodes, I didn't love all the action stuff with the lightsabers. Some of it was okay. And this right from the off was pretty impressive. We got to Balin, where he tells Shin and Marek to go pick up Ahsoka and Sabine, because obviously he knows that, the droids is just there to stall him, or kind of to scout where they are. Just really like Balin, from his outfit to his dialogue to his presence, very calculated and calm and experienced. Shin asks him, is that kind of hesitation I sense in your voice? And he confirms that no, it's experience, because he just alludes that Dooku kind of extra, almost affluent upbringing and good schooling, and he just alludes knowledgeable, and just want to see what's his background, what's his story, because he seems very tainted by the Jedi and Ahsoka and stuff. So I just want to get to know more of Balin. We then see Hera and Chopper, and he gets her son Jason Sandula, and they kind of head off with a bunch of other X-Wing pilots that are just basically trusting her, which is obviously, shout out to Carson Teva, obviously from The Mandalorian, seems to be in every current Star Wars project. Nice connectivity for the Filoniverse. Then we call back to Balin. He's now with Morgan Elsbeth, and she kind of uses her Night Sister magic to open up the map to get some precise coordinates to head the hyperspace ring thing to obviously head off to the other galaxy. Because if they don't, if they're out of alignment, then they'll kind of get lost in hyperspace or something. So don't totally love that, of how to kind of get to another galaxy. Just use loads of hyperdrives. It's not the best kind of it's not the best explanation I've ever heard in Star Wars, but with all the good they do in this episode, I'll let it slide. We see Ahsoka and Sabine now traveling through the forest, where they encounter Merok and Shin. Do love the cinematography in this scene. Probably in the volume, but I do love the forest setting. That was, obviously Ahsoka's episode in The Mandalorian. She had some fantastic scenes, samurai kind of Western almost scenes in the kind of forest setting, where we first see her kind of use a lightsaber in live action, and it's a very similar setting to this one. Obviously, I believe Filoni directed that episode in The Mandalorian, so he knows how to do the kind of forest moody setting where Ahsoka can act and behave like a samurai in the forest. Ahsoka makes quick work of Marek, and she kind of slices him through the abdomen, and we see some Night System magic smoke disappear, and he kind of evaporates and crushes in on himself, a bit like the kind of Night King on the Nazgul and Lord of the Rings. But I do believe that this is Night System magic. It looks like the smoke or the appearance of kind of magic as we see in in the Clone Wars and in Rebels from the Night Sisters. And Marek is obviously not Star Killer. That was a huge rumor online. People also thought he was Ezra. It turned out to be nothing. Do we need an explanation there? No, but it would be nice. Obviously, it does seem like Night System magic. Hopefully, we'll get some kind of explanation about that. That can be left as it is. We can, it's safe to assume that it was Night System magic, but there's no definitive answer as to what Marek is. Was Marek created on Dathomir? What's going on? There's no real explanation, but we shall see. And the way Ahsoka moves through the forest, very samurai. Obviously, lots of posing in different kind of lightsaber stances. You can clearly see the samurai influence that influenced, obviously, George Lucas all them years ago. And I do like the kind of tense feel that it has. A master of her craft, baiting somebody and using all of her skill and experience and knowledge and how to entice them and obviously defeat them. Ahsoka then leaves to get the map, leaves her apprentice Sabine with Shin. Obviously, I did find that a little bit awkward because obviously Shin did previously defeat Sabine. Obviously, does she trust her now? Is she just more concerned about the map? Sabine and Shin continue to fight. Again, that was much better than the one from the second episode where she gets hurt or stabbed or whatever, which I didn't like that lightsaber fight at all, but this was so much better in that setting. Sabine using her kind of Mandalorian arsenal as well. I do like that she kind of attempted to use the Force. Shin kind of froze for a second, realized you have no power. Obviously, she does have Mandalorian armor though, so you better watch out. She'll get you somehow. And then obviously Shin escapes. And then we see them catch up to Ahsoka and Balin a little bit later. Balin and Shin finally come face to face. This is obviously a lot of this stuff was in the trailers, but we see them confronting each other and Balin tempting and teasing her almost to kind of release her anger and get her off her game because they realize how strong she is as a Jedi and how well balanced she is. So he uses personal things against her about her master, which is obviously Anakin Skywalker, which he talks about as if he knows him from the Jedi Order. He confirms that Anakin used to speak highly of you, and everyone knew Anakin. Few lived to see what he became. So definitely trying to hit her emotions and trying to plug into her dark side and make her become more aggressive and clout. As they are battling, he does explain that it's your fault, Ahsoka, for abandoning him and turning her back on him, which is obviously a whole different thing. Obviously, we see in the Clone Wars where she does leave the Jedi Order because she was framed for murder and stuff. So that's whole history there coming back. And that shows that people outside of that kind of immediate council also know about the story of Anakin's apprentice. Very interesting. From the dialogue and his kind of anger towards Ahsoka, it's almost as if he sees Ahsoka and the other kind of rebels characters as the villain. He wants to build a better future. What future that is, what specifically does it mean, we yet to find out. What power can he obtain from Thrawn? But I do kind of like the character building because it gives you kind of a different perspective. Like you kind of a little bit root for him. I want to see what he means. Obviously, not really. I mean, you not personally really against Ahsoka, but if you're kind of new to the show, you don't like Ahsoka doesn't come across as the kind of plucky, heartwarming, endearing character that we have seen her for years and years. So if you're just watching the show new, I mean, Balin looks like he has kind of more heart than Ahsoka does. So I wouldn't be surprised if you actually root for this villain because, it's good character development in terms of him seeing Ahsoka and the Jedi as the villain. And obviously throughout these battles, Ahsoka is only using one saber in terms of hand-to-hand combat. What's the significance of that? Is it maybe she needs to settle it once she's more settled, she will use the other, the shorter saber that she has. What is the reason she's using one? There's obviously a significance there, but we shall see. I do like the juxtaposition of styles. Obviously, Ahsoka being the more athletic and faster, But obviously Balin's so much slower, and he takes big swings, and he's almost more brutal, but he has a certain technique against hers. We've kind of not seen these styles since the prequels, and I do love the way they use the settings around them, where he throws a rock at her, slice it in half, and obviously where she kind of obviously Ahsoka kind of chokes out Shin, which I'll come to in a second, and throws her and knocks her out against the rock, using the settings around them. Obviously, that's straight out of the original trilogy and the prequels as well. So that's not really been done in this kind of level and this intensity since the George Lucas era. So especially in live action, of course. But I love this intensity. Like, you don't know where the story's going. Like, you actually feel like Ahsoka's in danger here. Balin and Ahsoka continue to fight. He then tells her that Anakin and her only bring death and destruction wherever they go, and that's her kind of legacy. And obviously he sees her as a villain. So, and it did kind I was getting like flashbacks of different moments throughout Ahsoka's story that she has caused a lot of destruction, particularly, let's say in season 7 of the Clone Wars, where she kind of brings down a whole ship of clone troopers. Obviously, we're trying to kill her by Order 66, but she brings them all down. A lot of them were her friends and stuff. Look at the damage that she causes. But, obviously, we know from Ahsoka's perspective and being the neutrals in the story that obviously it's good versus evil. She does it for the greater good, but obviously he's this in-between force user. From his perspective, you can kind of see what he's on about. So very interesting dialogue and writing, all about lore building, force use, the balance, the cheat, if you will. So very, very nice Star Wars stuff. That this is what I'm here for. And it seems like Balin's not gotten over something, whether it's Order 66, whether he's lost other people, did he have a family, obviously his friends. Why is he so angry with Ahsoka in particular and the Jedi? And midway through the fight, Ahsoka manages to grab the orb, the map, and it seems to kind of burn her hand. She kind of drops it in pain, and it impales her. So she's only, further, obviously she's only using one saber, but she's also not at her full kind of best. And Balin kind of overpowers her. He's too strong in the Force. And is the map imprinted into her hand? Any kind of coordinates, directions, or anything? Seems a little bit far-fetched, but it could be potentially like straight out of Indiana Jones. But as he tries to overpower Ahsoka, he's still very heavy and slow. But I really like that. And then Shin shows up. Ahsoka then thinks that Sabine has been killed, and she looks kind of ultra concerned, and she taps into the dark side, and she kind of knocks her out, that Shin, by throwing her against the kind of rocks in the kind of map area. She uses that anger, and this is where Balin knocks her off the cliff and potentially to her death. We see obviously sparks fly. Did it hit her? Did it impale her? Did she kind of die from the fall? We don't know at this point. Sabine then turns up. Sabine sees Ahsoka, get taken out and falls, and Sabine then tries to attack Balin with kind of blaster fire. He deflects all of them so easy, and like he was deflecting before she fired, like before the blaster kind of fire came. So he was so proficient and strong in the Force. Like, that was super impressive. And then she kind of holds the orb and the map, she's about to destroy it. He then calms it down. He then changes gear and uses all of his kind of experience, his interesting experience that we don't know of, but he closes his eyes and senses the conflict within her. And they establish this is the only way you can get to Ezra. You obviously miss him. The only way is from that map. He calls a bluff and asks her to willingly come with them in order to find Ezra, and they'll go together and you'll not be harmed. And the big twist is that she gives in. I'm almost screaming at the television, don't do it, don't do it. But it was an interesting take. Obviously, she hasn't turned to their side or anything, but she's working with the villains in the show. She thinks Ahsoka's potentially dead as well. So obviously there's you understand why she made that decision, and this is the best character moments for Sabine so far in the first 4 episodes. Obviously she's put in a predicament, but you understand why she made that decision. So really, really good storytelling. Each characters are making kind of good and evil decisions, and you kind of rooting for them all. And obviously she has told Ahsoka you can rely on her to do the right thing, whether if they can't get to Ezra, nobody can. So she hasn't adhered to that so far, but will she still stick to her word and tell? Well, she emphatically says, you can rely on me. She's got a lot of making up to do. Definitely makes the story more intense, because you didn't know what Sabine was going to do there, because really she didn't really have a way out there. She was probably going to be killed. And soon as she makes the decision, she gets choked out by Shin, using a kind of force choke from behind as well. Like she seems way more aggressive than Balin and way more kind of out of control and more tapped into the dark side. Balin tells her twice, release her, I gave her my word. So you see there's honor with him. He definitely seems like a Jedi, a former Jedi, obviously, a force user. He doesn't seem all the way Sith because he has a bit of empathy, a bit of heart. So very interesting. And will Shin potentially turn on him? Because she was adamant, she's been adamant to get at Sabine now. So what's going to happen here? So Elsbeth on board the hyperdrive ring manages to obtain the coordinates from the map, and Balin destroys it with his lightsaber and explains that no one can follow us now. So they're all alone en route to Thrawn. Then just as you're thinking, where the frig is Hera? And she comes right on time, obviously with her kind of squadron. Phoenix, obviously leader here, and she comes with a kind of X-wing New Republic fighters. They engage the hyperdrive ring. Morgan tells her droids to basically ignore them and just continue on, engage the hyperdrive ring. Basically, obviously, we see that the ring is empty, nothing. It kind of fits inside. We'll see if there will be anything there, but I generally kind of thought or had a theory that the Purga would fit in. It seems big enough to hold one of them things. So obviously it doesn't. And there was no Purga in this episode. They're on that planet in the atmosphere. And obviously they do go through the atmosphere, by the hyper ring and stuff. And there's no kind of sight of them. And, I'm not sure if anyone is going to chase after them, how they're going to do it. They're going to use the Purga or not. But there was just no kind of look about the Purga. And there hasn't been enough explanation in terms of obviously Ezra and Thrawn's use of them. Since then, obviously we've seen the kind of iconography of them. We've seen what they look like in live action, but there's been no connectivity from the Purga. Now an update on how they are doing and kind of where they are. So that's a bit open. And it discoordinates everyone. They smash into each other. A couple of X-Wing pilots are killed and they've kind of left in disarray. And we cut back to the scene where Balin and Ahsoka were fighting, like a bird's eye view, and we see the cliffs. We then see Ahsoka. Is she on a cliff? And then it kind of fades into, the fantastic CG that we see, and she appears in the War Between Worlds. There's so many questions. First of all, it looks fantastic in live action. Obviously with the blue flooring, let's say, that's all around and stuff. So I was really impressed with the CG being used. It looks beautiful, straight out of obviously Star Wars Rebels. If you don't know what this is, you need to be watching Rebels. Personally, there was a lot of criticism about the World Between Worlds, although it was really gripping stuff in the final season of Star Wars Rebels. A lot of people didn't like it because it does, for a certain point of view, invokes time travel, but I never saw it as time travel per se. Even though you can pull people out and step into different kind of moments in the Star Wars universe, I always thought it is like a dimension, a world between worlds. It's like a specific sphere where not anyone can get into, kind of thing, and people can step in and out, and you can find answers and things like that. I never really considered it time travel, and even if it is considered time travel for whatever reason, I love that lore building and world building that Filoni did. So a lot of people don't like it, but no. This is all the sugar and spice that I need. Love the World Between Worlds. And obviously it's where you hear echoes from people in your past, people in the future, people you don't know. Every moment in the Star Wars galaxy is in this space. You can walk through doors, portals, as I said, pull people out, pull things out, view events that you never witnessed, etc. So that the potential is crazy. This is where Ahsoka was saved by Ezra as she battled Vader, and if it wasn't for Ezra, she would have died there and then. So he pulled her out and saved her life in the War Between Worlds, and that's where they were confronted by Palpatine, who couldn't get into the War Between Worlds. He tried to capture obviously Ezra and Ahsoka. So it shows that not everyone can get into the War Between Worlds. Obviously Ahsoka wakes up there. We don't know how. Was she pulled out? Is it the Morai? Which is obviously a storyline from the Clone Wars, of course, which is Morai is obviously an our representation of the light side of the Force, which is the sister. This is like going way deep now, and I love it. Just give me more. This is what I'm here for. This is the potential we're now finally seeing. And she stands up and we hear the hello Snips line, a whisper of hello Snips. And I thought Balin was going to say it, like, oh, Anakin used to call her Ahsoka, like obviously openly, and And I thought maybe he knew that or something. I thought that's where it was going to get it, but we got it later in the episode where one of the heroes of Star Wars, full stop, Anakin Skywalker, her master appears, and it is absolutely crazy to see Hayden Christensen say, "Hello, Snips. I didn't expect you to see you so soon." And obviously, it being Hayden Christensen, his return, of course, and he looks for me, initially on first viewing, I will admit the CG did catch me off guard. I'm not gonna lie, but I just wanted to I was so locked in, and I actually gasped when I saw him, and I genuinely had goosebumps. And the more I've watched it, the more I like it. I do like the de-aged, straight out of Revenge of the Sith. How he looked in the events of that movie. So he's dressed in the Revenge of the Sith outfit with his lightsaber as well. Obviously, he doesn't look like this in Return of the Jedi when he is a Force ghost. Why is that? Why is he looking like a Jedi there? And why is he now in the World Between Worlds, not seemingly not a Force ghost? So is that Anakin? Is that not Anakin? Why is he dressed that way? And of course, as the episode ends, we hear the Vader theme come into last minute. So is he going to turn on Ahsoka there and then? But he does smile. Obviously, an unbelievable amount of questions and theories that are swirling around in my head and on the internet. And obviously, he has his mechanical hand, as his lightsaber. So, is this really Anakin? What is he doing there? How is he there? Is this where Force ghosts go to? Is this where Jedi go when they die? Who's pulled him in there if it is really him? Did he come from a kind of a scene in Revenge of the Sith almost? Like so many questions. Is Ezra there? Where's the Morai? Like this is endless amount of thought. It's really whetting the appetite, and this is what we need in Star Wars. I don't need no Obi-Wan series where he looks ridiculous in it, or slow Andor series. I know it's well made and people love that show, but no. This is what I need. This fire stuff. And of course, the potential in the World Between Worlds. I believe that next episode, first of all, is going to be directed by Dave Filoni. And obviously, he must have dreamt for years of having Ahsoka and Hayden Christensen's Anakin together in live action. The things they're going to discuss, walking around in the World Between Worlds, what they're going to see. They're going to see events of previous movies. For example, Revenge of the Sith. Is he going to have any interaction with his son, Luke Skywalker? Is there going to be an interaction with Obi-Wan? Is there going to be a Padme thing? Because obviously they all know each other. Where is Rex as well? Where they're going to go in, where they're going to go out from. Obviously, where Thrawn is, they can go to that place, but presuming they can. I know it's in a different galaxy, so I presume it's in the World Between Worlds. What's going on? So obviously, so many questions, thoughts, and theories. And obviously, shout out to the director Peter Ramsey. I thought the direction really fast-paced episode. Even though I think it was about 37 minutes, it felt really long, like so fast-paced. Filoni's directing the next one. I just can't wait for him. I mean, the show could get so wild with things that it can do, and can it redo scenes? Can it? It can literally, from the World Between Worlds, you can set out a new sequel trilogy. Like you can, not a sequel trilogy, but a sequel story where you don't have to kind of relive the kind of future. I mean, you can set up almost a different timeline. So I don't lie, it does seem like almost not time travel, but potentially multiverse type stuff. So yeah, it's so interesting with the things that they can do, and this is the stuff that I want and need. The level of lore that it's going to go into is so exciting, and it's heart racing because like you don't know where the story can go. I mean, the thoughts, the theories, obviously other characters that can come in, and very creative. And I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. The next episode is going to be amazing. Please let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I'm not the only one off the wall who thinks this. Please, someone let me know. I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. I wish kind of almost this was the first episode. Obviously, we had to catch up with the characters. We know that, but this is the lore story building. This is what I'm here for. This is what it's about. I needed this episode, because it was too placid. The previous, all three episodes were, to be honest, but this was fire. It's just going to go up and up and up and up. Obviously, we haven't had Thrawn and Ezra yet as well, particularly Thrawn. He's almost, the big looming presence, the big bad that's been, mentioned throughout. Now we need him to turn up and show up. Obviously, yeah, it's almost halfway through now, and he still hasn't made an appearance. So obviously, a couple of negatives here and there, but apart from that, I mean, these are small things. Absolutely fantastic episode. Loved it from start to finish. It was so fun. What do you guys think? If you're new to the channel at all, please subscribe, please like the video. I want to hear all your thoughts and theories. Let me know. I've been Bogz, you've been watching Off the Wall. We'll catch you guys on the next review.